Hey, welcome to the OK Den Show. I am Titia Owens, the Madre.
And I am Chyna Elizabeth, the daughter. Welcome to the show, y'all.
Okay. And we are so excited today. We have these two amazing guests that are here with us today. And boy, we are going to get into it. I'm going to let them tell you, though, who they are. This young lady sitting next to me. What is your name, ma'am?
Marcella. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Marcella. And then the beautiful lady sitting next to you.
I am her mother, Elizabeth Savage. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
We're so excited to have them today. And the subject matter we're discussing, a lot of men and women have gone through this particular area of life, but their story is quite dynamic. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to share with you about the subject matter once we get into it. So just follow along and see how it all unfolds.
Yeah.
Okay. So Elizabeth, I'm going to start with you. I want you to first of all kind of take us back on a journey. So what I understand, I'm going to tell you what I understand and then you clarify for me.
Okay.
What I understand with Elizabeth is she suffered domestic violence in her past relationship. And there were some deathly circumstances that came from that. And so we're going to go right into her taking us back to the very beginning. So I want you to first talk to me about the experiences of the domestic violence before the other happenings. Like when you first got into this relationship, how old were you?
I was actually in high school. I was a freshman. So I was about, 15, 14. I met him in high school. He was a sophomore and I was a freshman. But it wasn't right away. We dated that year. Then we broke up in the summer and then we got back together. But what I thought was, he just wants to hang out with me. He just wants to be with me. It was more of a controlling spirit that he had.
But what caused you to be attracted to him though?
He was good looking.
Oh, so he was fine.
Yeah, he was a football player. Girls were crazy about him. He was good looking.
Okay. So you saw this young man. He was fine, but he was controlling.
Very.
And although you saw he was controlling, what was your response to that?
I actually didn't take it as control. I just thought it as, puppy love. He just wants to be with me. He just wants to hang out with me, not knowing that was actually a controlling spirit that he had. Yeah, I didn't understand until after the fact that we got married. Then I started to see, okay, this is repeating itself. This is not puppy love. This is like for real, for real.
When did you realize that though?
I actually started realizing that after high school, we got married and he still controlled how often I went to my parents' house, where I went, what I did. And it's when I noticed that this was not that puppy love that I thought it was. This was actually a controlling man.
Okay, so you met him at about 15. You got married at what age?
I got married at 19.
Okay, so at 19, did your mother and father approve of this marriage?
No.
Okay, tell us about that.
When I told my father, I actually got pregnant first.
Okay.
And after we had the child, he thought that the best thing to do was get married.
Okay.
And I said, well, because he would tell me that once now that you're pregnant, now you have a kid, who's going to want you? So I believe that, it's true, who's going to want a young girl with a child. So he asked me to marry him, and his mom was like, y'all need to get married if y'all going to be together, have a kid. And so we ended up getting married. Before we got married, I went to my father and I told him that, we were going to get married. And my dad was like, I don't approve of that. And so I'm like, but why? And he's like, I just don't see him being the man for you. Even at this age, I just don't see that. And so my father said, but that's your choice. If you marry him, I'm not going to walk you down the aisle. And so I asked him, why? He said, because I can't walk my daughter down the aisle knowing that this man is not for her. And so I was like, okay, he'll show up. He'll regret it and he'll show up. Well, my father didn't show up.
Wow.
So I walked down the aisle by myself.
So being that your father said no, what was your relationship like with your father that you would say, I'm not listening to him, I'm still going to do this?
I love my father. My father's everything to me. So it really broke me. And he would just tell me, like, think about it, really see your future with this man, with this, guy. And when I literally walked down the aisle, I was really crying because I didn't see my future.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not see my future, but because I was already with a child that belonged to him, I said, well, just get married and maybe something will happen there. But I cried. I wasn't crying out of happiness or, like I'm fixing to get married. I was crying more like I don't see a future.
And you went on with it.
I did.
Okay. So your father was in disagreement with you getting married.
I know.
Number one, I want y'all to hear that because I don't think we understand how important it is. There are so many blessings that come from the Father's blessing.
Yeah.
So when you don't have the Father's blessing, there's, in my belief, it is major consequences to that.
Yeah.
For your father to have said to you, I am not in agreement with you marrying this man.
Yes.
You married him anyway. And then all the things that came after that, to me, that's major. And I
Yes.
cannot wait for people to hear the whole process that happened after that. Okay, so you get married. Your father's not walking you down at the wedding. You don't see a future with the husband that you have now said yes to. And then talk about what started happening. He was already controlling before you got married. Then you now say I do. And then when does the other abuse or what have you start?
After that, when we got married, he started to cheat. I started to go through this cheating process, catching him with a lot of girls, a girl here, a girl there, girls calling that home. And so it became that process of, what's wrong with me? Why is he seeking outside the home? Am I too fat? Am I too skinny? Because I gave a child, maybe he doesn't see me attracted anymore. So it was the cheating. So it became more of a emotional abuse. He would just be like, I can do what I want to do type of thing. You can't tell me because I'm a man and I can do whatever.
But you're married.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And so it became the emotional abuse, the mental abuse, and then after that, I think my oldest daughter was about, I'm gonna say about 9 months or a little younger than that, when he first put his hands on me.
Okay. Explain what putting hands on you meant.
He was going somewhere with his father, and because we stayed with his parents.
Okay.
We didn't have a home of our own.
Okay.
So we stayed with his parents, and he was going somewhere with his father. And I asked him a question. I can't remember what it was, but he turned around and he pushed me. It started with the push. Then after that, he started to hit me. But it was not hard. It was just, like a hit, but it was still kind of like, okay, that hurt. And so we're wrestling because I'm like, no, you're not fixing to hit me.
Yeah.
And because I'm like, this is not normal.
Were his parents aware?
Yeah. His father jumped in, came in there and broke it up. And he told him to come on with him and leave with him. So he left with his father and that was it. Nothing was discussed after
Wow.
that. His mother never discussed anything with us or with me. And his father didn't discuss anything else with him. He just took him away. And so it was kind of like brushed under the rug.
So what was reconciliation? Like how, so that happens, you get into it, he physically touches you and harms you, and how do you guys move past that?
He came home and he said that he didn't know what he was thinking, that he apologized. And of course, they start to give you, because when you're broken, you accept anything. And I was already broken because I was broken way before we got married.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because he was already, kind of the rumors of him cheating and stuff. So it was already brokenness. So when he was, constantly telling me, I'm sorry, I'll do better and stuff, you take it in because you want that.
Yeah.
Because I'm already married to this man. So I want that.
Right.
And
Tell me about that brokenness. You said you were already broken. What was that? What did that mean?
I did not know who I was. I did not know who Elizabeth was because I was controlled from junior year of all my friends. I was taken away from my friends. So I started to lose my own identity. I started to become who he wanted me to become.
Yeah.
So I was really in a dark place. So I was broken.
And you let him direct how you were thinking because
Yes.
you said when he came into your life, is that kind of when the brokenness began?
It did, because I knew who I was. I knew my dreams. I knew what I wanted to do. You know, I was going to travel the world, go to college in New York. I mean, I had it all planned out. But when I met him, it's kind of like this little dream was taken, this little dream. And then all of a sudden, everything I seen was a blank board with nothing on it. So I became who he wanted me to become. My thoughts, my walk, my hair color, my cut, my dressing. You know, I was the only one literally working.
So Marcella, when you hear this, when you hear your mom having this conversation, how does it make you feel to hear your mom went through this process, being that you're at this point in your life? And just tell us how you're feeling listening.
I mean, it's my mom.
Yeah.
So it hurts. It makes me angry. It kind of puts me in a messed up position because it's between two people that I'm connected to. But it's my mom, so I mean,
And it's your dad. And it's your dad. So when you hear these things about your father and the experiences that your mother and father had, when you first heard about any of it, how old were you that you can remember?
I don't remember a specific age. I just remember I was in elementary, and I brought it up first to my mom because I heard it between some of my relatives. So I was just curious. So that's when I started asking questions, and that's when I brought it to her. And since then, it was just curiosity after that.
Now, let me ask you this. You're hearing this about your mother and your father. Was there ever a time you didn't believe it?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Because like I said before, I'm stuck between two people that I'm connected to. So it's kind of like you're not being put in a position to pick a side, but then you are being put in a position to pick a side. My mom's never put me in a position personally herself to pick a side. It's just war within yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks.
But do you ever remember experiencing any of it during that time or no?
No.
Okay. Okay. So going back to you, Elizabeth, the abuse started with the first child, correct?
Correct.
And then take us through the journey of the other children and what that was looking like as you were having more.
I got pregnant with my second child, which was Marcella.
Okay.
And the abusive was still there. He started to become more abusive, and it was always like, I'm sorry. But when you're in an abusive relationship and they already know your weakness, they attack that weakness. And so when people say, well, why don't you just leave? It's not as easy as it seems, especially when you're broken.
Yeah.
So like I said, it was abuse after abuse. I was pregnant with her. He was cheating. I went to the doctor's appointment, and they had to call me back and said, hey, you have a sexually transmitted disease, and it's bad for the baby. She can come out blind, and it was with Marcella. And so, of course, I went and I got, checked and cleaned and everything. And so he would still say the doctor was wrong. And so it made me feel like maybe I was crazy. Maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe it was not what the doctor said, So you start to second guessing yourself. Like, am I, hearing things, or am I seeing things, or am I just tripping?
Wow.
And so it messed with my emotional, my mental. But the abuse actually started getting worse after she was born. My parents started getting involved because they were like, something's going on, because you don't come over often like you used to. Because my family grew up together, really close. That my aunts would come over and spend the night, and they would have parties from Friday all the way to Sunday. Okay, and they would sleep.
I love it.
Spend the night. So for me not to come when they had gatherings, it was like, okay, what's going on? So my father started to see a difference in me. You don't come around, and it's because I had bruises. And he will always tell me, you know, if your family gets involved, your dad gets involved, and something happens to him, that's your fault. So I was protecting not only myself, my children, but I was also protecting my father and my family.
So he was making you believe that something could happen to them if you told them
Yes.
about your bruises and the things that were going on with you.
So I wouldn't go because I didn't want my father to get involved. So my father started asking questions. He decided to move me, Mercedes, and Marcella to California, where his brother was at.
Okay.
So we moved to San Bernardino, California, and there I didn't have no protection.
Yeah.
You know, even though I didn't have it back home, it got worse in California. The abuse was like, you name it. His brother was abusive to his wife, and he was abusive to me. So it's kind of like, your turn this week, my turn next week. So we kind of like, you know, like who is it this week?
Did y'all talk about it often?
Yes, we
did you
did.
and the young lady talk about it?
We did. And when she would get abused, I would jump in, and because I jumped in, I would get abused. And so she finally decided, you know what, I can't do this. So she left without telling anybody. She took her kids, took whatever she could, and she went back home to Amarillo. And she, you know, and now I understand, but at the time I was hurt and angry, like, why didn't you take me? Why didn't you take us? You know, so I was left there by myself. So like I said, I was the only one working. I was the only one providing because he didn't work. He worked when he wanted to work.
Yeah.
And it was for what he wanted to do with the money. It was not to bring it in home. So I got pregnant with my third child, which was Robert.
Okay.
And he was born in San Bernardino.
Okay.
And
I want to go back though. When the sister-in-law left and you felt she left you, what happened in the marriage at that point? Like, what was your husband? Did the abuse increase? Did it become less? Like, what happened when you didn't have someone else there?
no, the abuse increased, but he would leave because he was messing around, and him and his brother would leave.
Okay.
And literally they would be gone for 3 days to maybe a week. And that was my peace time. And it's crazy to say because, you know, women want their husbands at home. I literally was like, good. And don't come back tomorrow, and don't come back the next day.
Right.
You know, I'm like, don't come back next week.
Okay.
So when he was gone, it was like very
Relief for
peaceful.
you.
Yeah.
But when he would be home, Mercedes and Marcella would like literally be like, okay, can we do this? Can we, you know, it's kind of like,
Walking on eggshells. You
yes,
can't
they
do
were
nothing.
scared even at the young age, you know, because they were young.
So did he put his hands on them, or what was his action toward the children?
He didn't put his hands on them at that time. He never really bothered them. It was I always try to keep the attention towards me. So I would always tell the girls, you know, like, shh, you know, go to your room. And I would just always keep the attention towards me to protect them, just in case they did make a loud noise. He would get upset, and I didn't want him to go towards them.
Yeah.
So it's more of, I'm here.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
You know, so when I was pregnant with my third child, my son, he had came after a week being gone, and they were about to leave again. They came to get some clothes and then leave again. And so he left the door wide open. It was nighttime. It was about 9 p.m. And so I opened the screen door, and I said, hey, are you about to leave? And he busted a turn, and he said, are you questioning me? And I said, no, I'm just asking you, are you about to leave so I can lock the door, you know, since it's just me and the girls here. And so when he came back, he grabbed me by my neck and threw me, and I was pregnant at the time. He threw me against the wall, and we were in the kitchen. And he grabbed a knife and he put it to my neck. He goes, I will cut your throat right now, and nobody will find you.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay, think, Liz, think us. And so I started thinking as a survival mode. I was like, stupid of me. I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm asking you that dumb question. Like, duh, you get in the car, you leaving. Like, just lock the door, Liz. You know, so I started to belittle myself to put him higher.
Yeah.
And so he put the knife. He goes, yeah, you're dumb. That's your problem. You're just dumb. So he walked out and he left. So I waited, and then I locked the door, and I went back in there, and I grabbed the girls, and I just laid there, because that could have been me. They're gone, and who was going to take care of my girls?
Yeah.
So I started to belittle myself every day to make him look greater and put him higher in a level. So yes.
My Lord. I don't know how you did that, but I thank God for the wisdom that He gave you in order that you would be here today.
Yes.
I'm so grateful for that. So take us further. Take us to all the children. Like, as it progressed, take us through those journeys as children were coming.
He had beat me up after I had little Robert. We were homeless. We lost our home, but my dad had always taught us to save money, and so I had money, little stashed up money, and I got us a room for about a week and a half. So I took my newborn baby to a hotel, and my girls to a hotel, and that's where we stayed.
Where was he at?
He was there, but like I said, he would leave and come. But he stayed at the hotel with us at that time. And I had a C-section with my son. Well, with all my children, I had a C-section. And then finally, his brother's like, "Hey, I found a spot for us to stay with some friend of his that he had known." So we moved in with her and her kids. And when we moved, he left with his brother. And about 3 days later, he showed up, and I had just put down all the kids to sleep. Now I have a newborn, then I have her, then I have her sister, which they're not more than 2 years old. So I'm trying to put all of them to sleep, and they finally fell to sleep. He came home and he was drunk. So I asked him, "Hey, can you keep it down? So the kids won't wake up." And so because I told him keep it down, I told him what to do. He grabbed me, and I had just had a C-section, and he threw me over the bed, and he started to kick me. So what I did, I balled up because he was trying to kick me in my stomach. So I balled up and protecting the area of the C-section. And so he starts kicking me on my back. He starts kicking me wherever he could. Then he finally grabbed me by my hair, and he threw me on the bed. And that day he raped me. But at that time, I didn't know that was rape. When you're saying no, because that's your husband, you're supposed to, do whatever. And he laughed afterwards, and he said, "No one's going to believe you that I raped you because you're my wife. You're my property." Wow. And so I looked at him like, "You're right. Like, you're right. Like, who's going to believe?" So on that day, I conceived with my 4th child.
Wow.
So I was pregnant like right away.
Yeah.
And so after my bruises, because he had left me beat up, I called my mom, and I said, "Hey," because he had left. And I called my mom at a payphone, and I said, "Mom, don't ask questions." She's in Amarillo. And I said, "I just need you to buy us some bus tickets and get us home." And I said, "Don't ask me questions, just as soon as you can." She said, "Okay, well, you're leaving Sunday." And so I said, "Okay." But the lady that we were living with told him, and he met us at the bus stop.
Oh my God.
And he bought him a bus ticket. He said, "You think you're going to leave me behind?" And he rode the bus back with us.
Oh my God.
So
what did you do when you saw him? Like, what?
Yeah, how did you even react to that?
I think I probably turned into a ghost, because I was like, my heart stopped. Like, oh my God, like, what are you doing here? And he said, "So and so told me you were up here. You were about to leave. Who you think you are?" And so I was like, I was like, well, I didn't know if you were ever going to come back and get us. So this is where, again, I become like, "You're an idiot. I'm an idiot. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have waited." And,
wow.
So we went back home. And at that time, my father was in prison. He was, placed in the federal prison. And then he was deported afterwards.
And he was in prison, why?
He was in prison because he was trying to... He was a construction manager, but he wanted to give the family more. So he went to prison for dealing drugs.
Okay.
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 So he he thought like it was gonna be quick money, like I'll do it one time and I'll be done, but not realizing one time they got you on the radar, and that one time took him down.
Oh, wow.
And so they gave him, he only served 2 years, but after that, because he's not from here, he's from Mexico, they deported him.
Oh, wow.
So he knew, like, you don't have your father here, your mama can't do nothing, your brothers are too little, you know, they can't do nothing to me. And so he took advantage of all that. And so the abuse got worse. We stayed with his mom, but his mom was always his protector.
Yeah.
Well, what did you do?
His enabler.
Why were you, what did you do? If you talked to him.
Questioning you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, my sister, my mom came to the hospital when he beat me one time, and my face was so swollen you couldn't see my eyes. And so my sister thought I was dead because I was just laying there, but because I couldn't see who came in the room. And so my sister was just like, oh my gosh, she's dead. Like, she's gone now. Like, what happened? And so it was that kind of beatings where he would beat me, where my face would be so swollen I could not see. I had to do whatever I could to make the swelling go down because I had to go to work the next day. And so my job was like, why won't you just leave him? And what they would do so that I can hide from the customers, they would put me, because I worked for McDonald's, I was a shift manager, they would put me in the grill area so that my face would not ever show out to the public. But they knew that I needed to work because they knew I had to provide for children.
Yeah.
You know, so they were really helpful, but they were like, why won't you just leave him? I mean, he came up to my job trying to fight me. They hit me in the basement. And they're like, she's not here. She already left for the day, you know, because he was trying to find me to fight me.
And why? Fighting you. What was always in his mind that he felt the need to fight you? Or what would be happening with him?
I don't know. To this day, he don't think he did anything wrong. You know, he don't think he owes me an apology. He thinks that everything was my fault. And so...
and what was going on with you while all this is happening? How are you mentally surviving? Like, what are you telling yourself every day?
I have to survive a second. I have to survive my second. I have to survive my minute. If you just do this, then this won't happen. If you just give your whole check to him, this won't happen. If you just do this, this won't happen. If you just allow him to go out in peace, this won't happen. But it still happened.
Were the kids ever around when he would do that to you?
Yes, they were around, but they were so young. My oldest one was 4 years old. Marcella was 3. Little Robert was 1, and then Angelica was 6 months.
Wow.
So it was abuse. Actually, when I was pregnant with Angelica, I was 7 months because I went to the park to ask him for $20 to buy some diapers. He picked me up and body slammed me and told me not to ever ask for money in front of his friends.
Oh my goodness.
So I was sent to the hospital that day.
And so when your friends are seeing this and people around you, what is happening? What's the dialogue?
They jumped in. My friend Margie had jumped in at one time. Actually, had gave birth to Angelica, and they lost me with Angelica. I stopped breathing, and so I woke up, and my friend was like screaming, and she hugged me. She's like, "Don't you ever do that? You know they lost you. You literally like died." And so I'm like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yes, girl. You like literally left me."
And Angelica is your 4th child?
Yes, my 4th child.
Okay.
And when I was in the hospital, he showed up with the girl that he was messing around with. So it's when my friend was like, "Oh no, this is it. I'm sorry." And she kicked him out, and they started fighting, like fist fighting. And she's like, "No, I'm gonna fight you for her and for myself and for all my," she used to call them nieces and nephews. And she's like, "No, I got this." One of his cousin actually jumped in when he body slammed me when I was pregnant with Angelica. He jumped in, so he started telling him, "Oh, that must be your baby." Because you're protected.
Oh, he was saying that the man was the
His
father,
cousin.
the cousin, because he jumped in to help you.
To help me, yes.
Wow.
He's like, "No, she's pregnant and she's a woman." And because he was across the street from the park where he was at, and he came running to save me. And his brother's ex-wife, she also had jumped in. His dad jumped in one time, but he also fought his dad because he was trying to get to me. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like he had no boundaries in getting to you. No matter who it was that he had to overcome or overrule, his commitment was to making sure you receive some type of pain.
Yes.
And Angelica is born. This is child number 4.
Correct.
And where are you and where is he at this point? Like, tell us where the journey is now going.
We are still together, and the abuse, like I said, got worse. He had tried to run me over with a car. So when I ran, he finally caught up to me because he got out the car, started running after me, and he started stomping me with his. He had those. I used like army boots.
So like Timberland boots?
Yes, he started stomping me with those. I have pictures of my back where he saw his footprints on there. And he stomped this arm out of socket.
Wow.
So when his cousin jumps in to tell him, hey, you're going to kill her, he said, what do you think I'm doing? And he grabbed her. He's like, no, you're going to go to jail. He starts telling me, run, Liz, run. And so I'm running with my arm,
out of socket.
Yes. But I'm running, and all of a sudden I could feel his presence behind me. He got caught up to me in front of a house. And so he starts to hit me again. And this lady, I call her the angel because when I went back to thank her, she was gone. And she came out that house. She's grabbing me, but she don't realize that this arm is
Out of socket.
So she's grabbing my arm, pulling me into her house. And so finally she pulls me in. There was no furniture. There was nothing in her house. And she says, run to the bathroom, and the phone is in there, call 911. So I ran to the bathroom. I called 911, and he starts beating up on her. So I have the pictures of her where she has bruises all over her, where he's beating her and stuff. And then they take off, and she said, they're gone. You can come out now. And so the police did show up. The ambulance showed up, and they took both of us to the hospital and stuff. So it's when I finally said, something has to change. Because if it doesn't change, he's going to end up killing you, and who's going to take care of your 4 children? Even though you have your mom, it's not going to guarantee your mom is going to get her. And I didn't want his mom to have him. I said, what's going to happen to them?
Yeah.
And so December of 94. I had came home from work, a long day from work. And like I said, I was the only provider. And he's like, I heard a rumor that you're talking to somebody. And I'm like, dude, I even have time to even comb my hair. And because I said that, he threw me against the wall. He starts choking me. Then he throws me on the floor. And then he pins, because I start fighting him back for the first time ever. I start fighting him back, and he gets mad. So he grabs my hands. He gets on top of me, and he puts my arms underneath his knees. So I'm pinned down, and I'm like, oh my God, I am doomed. Like, what are you going to do, Liz? So I'm like, he starts to punch me. So my nose starts to bleed. And so in my mind, I'm like, turn your face one way. And let him mess up that face in case you have to go to work tomorrow. Because it was always about my children. And so all of a sudden I hear him, he starts to punch me because I turn this way. So he's punching me. And so I feel, warm of blood coming out. And then Mercedes bites him in the back. And so
that's your oldest daughter?
That's my oldest daughter. And so he screams. And he lets go of me because he's already choking me at that time. And so I'm feeling like I'm about to black out. And she bites him. This is my 4-year-old. And he screams. So he pulls back. And so I'm trying to catch my breath, wipe the blood to see what's going on. And then he looked at me. He said, your blank, blank, blank daughter bit me. And so he grabs Mercedes and he throws her. That's when I said, no way. This is it. Enough. I can't allow my children to be abused because now the focus won't be on me. And so I let him leave. I grab what I can. I go across the street where there was a YMCA. Before I go, I call my friend Margie and I say, come get us. I'm leaving. And she's like, I'm on my way. I would be behind the YMCA, and it was real cold in December, and in Amarillo it gets really, really cold. And so I grab a blanket, and all of us go across the street. My baby, Marcella, Mercedes, and Robert. And I have a little bag full of diapers and whatever I could put in there. And I wrap him up in the blanket, and then finally she yells, "It's me, Margie, come out." So we go, and I stayed with her. Then he starts to threaten that he's going to come to her house and burn it down. And she's like, "I wish you would, because I'm ready for you." And so
before you go on to, so your oldest daughter is now involved with the abuse, meaning she's seen it and she's observed her mom being beaten. Was there any kind of reaction from her at that point? Like, did she ask you, Mom, what was going on, or did y'all have a conversation at all? I know she was small, but was there any conversation?
When Mercedes was about 1, she had seen me get beat up real bad. She lost her speech. So she didn't speak because she was scared to speak. That's what the doctor said. Her voice is fine. Everything's good. And he said if something happened to frighten her from speaking. And so in my mind, I was like, oh, I know what that was.
Wow.
And so she would say her words, but not as clear. And she would just be like, different things like food, potty, but other to have a straight conversation, she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it.
So there wasn't a conversation that you all had. So was there ever a point where she was able to talk, or that's just kind of how it was?
That's how it was, because she was 4 years old. And then in January 5th of 1995.
Okay. So let's start going there. So you're at your friend's. He's saying he would burn the house down. Take us from that point on to how it got to the other things that were happening.
Yeah, he had the kids, and he came to my job, threatened me, and finally my boss, the store manager, and all of them, told him if he came up there again, they were going to arrest him. They called the cops. They put a trespass,
restraining
order against him, so he couldn't step at McDonald's. So they did all that, but then he had the children. And
how did he have the children?
He got them from his mom. His mom had called and said, don't keep them away from her.
So let's go back. So you had the kids, and then how did the mom get the kids?
She called me and she asked me, could she see the kids? Because even though me and him were not in good terms, she wanted to see.
So y'all were separated at this point? Okay, yes. So you're separated. So let's get clarity for the audience. So at this point, this is after that last fight, pretty much.
Yes.
You had left him, you were staying with a friend, but then you were separated from him, but then the mother wanted to see the children.
Correct.
Or basically said to you that you shouldn't keep your kids from the father.
Correct. Well, she said, don't keep them away from us.
From them.
Even though you and him might be going with whatever y'all going through, don't keep them away from us.
Okay.
So I called my mom and was like, well, that is their grandparents. Maybe you should for maybe until you get off.
This is your mom basically saying you should let her at least have some time with them.
And stuff. And she said, but just let her know that she's not allowed to let them go with him and so on. And so when I got off work, I called her and I said, I'm on my way to get the girls. And, and.
So you skipped a part. So your mom basically lets you know that you should go ahead and let her see the kids, but you gave her stipulations, don't let them go. And then you let the kids go with the mother.
Correct.
And then what happens from that point on?
When I get off work, I called her and tell her I was on my way.
Okay.
And then she said, oh, the kids are not here. They're with him.
So your mother-in-law allowed your children to go with the father, even though you told her, no, she's not to do that. Okay, so keep going.
Yes. So when I called him, because, we had house phones at the time, he told me I better not come up there. I better not get the kids. And because we had not gone through a divorce in agreement, he was still, because I called the police and they said he still has the rights to have the kids. There's nothing they can do until we go to court. So finally on January 5th.
Wait a minute, because let's not pass days. So he has the kids.
It's after Christmas.
Okay.
He had the kids. So he probably had the kids maybe, he actually got them after New Year's. So he had the kids from the first, the second, the third, and the 4th of January of 95.
So he had them about 4 days.
4 days.
Okay, so 4 days, and then how did you get involved at that point? What was happening in those 4 days? What was going on with you?
I was at work and I kept calling him like, let me come. And he's like, if you come, something's going to happen to you. Or he would never answer the phone. I would drive by there to see if the kids were there, and they were not there. Because I was like, I took my mother went with me. One of my friends went with me, and he wouldn't answer the door. So I still try to get the kids.
Okay.
I try to get my babies.
So you were panicked.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
every day I was like, oh my God, but he's like, they're good. They're not, nothing's wrong with them. I'm taking care of them. And he finally said on January 5th, you can come get them, which was on a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. He said, you can come get them. So my friend, I'll go with you. You're not going by yourself. It could be a trap. You never know. And when we drove up, is when we saw his building on fire.
So you come to the building where he lives. This is an apartment building?
Yes, four duplexes, 2 on top and 2 on the bottom.
Okay, and where was he in that?
We used to live on the bottom, on the I think it was number 1.
But you're on the first floor, basically?
Yes.
Okay, so you drive up to the building and you see a fire?
Correct.
Okay, and so what happens when you see this fire? What's going on with you?
My friend is like, hey, there's a fire, and I'm like, oh, maybe I was like, no, it's not a fire. It's probably, because where we lived at the apartment, the street was one way and people would take it as a 2-way. So when you have cars coming this way, these cars are turning this way and they will, crash into each other. And so I'm thinking, no, it's a wreck, because it was a lot of fire department, fire trucks, ambulance and stuff. And she's like, no, she said, it's something else. It's something else. Like, no, it's probably a wreck. It's probably a real bad wreck. And so my heart, dropped like, let it be a wreck. Let it be a wreck. So she was slowing down because it had just snowed that day. It was just snowing that day. That's the first day that it snowed in Amarillo. And so before she could slow down, I literally opened the door and I jumped out and I took off running. And to get to the apartment doors, you have to go up some stairs. And when you go up the stairs, he was coming out with 2 of the girls, which was Marcella and Mercedes. And he's coming out the apartments. And so I asked him what happened. He said, I don't know. And I said, well, where are the other 2? And he said, I don't know. I couldn't find them. So I ran in the apartments, not knowing it's the fire in front of me. Not thinking. I just ran in there and I'm yelling like, there's two. And so I'm calling out their names. And one of the firefighters stopped me and he's like, you can't be in here because the smoke was real heavy. He's like, it's not good for you to be in here. And I said, well, there's 2 kids missing. And so he starts yelling to the other firefighters, hey, there's 2 kids missing. There's 2 more kids missing. So when I go back out, when the firefighter brings me back out, they have Marcella, Mercedes, and then they have my son on a blanket on the snow, giving them CPR. And so I'm like, there's still one missing. So they're calling out, telling everybody there's still a baby missing. There's still a baby missing. And so they're giving them CPR, and they come and they one of the firefighters puts his hands on me. He said, are you the mother of the children? And I was like, yes, sir. And he was like, can you come with me? And when I go around the ambulance, there's a firefighter with a yellow.
Take your time. We are not in a rush.
With a yellow bag. And he said, is this the child? And so I'm like, can I see her? And so the firefighter's like, I don't suggest that would be a good idea. And so I was like, let me see her. And he's like, ma'am, I just really don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so I said, I got to see her. I got to make sure that that's my child. You have to confirm.
Yeah.
And he finally said, okay. So he opens up the bag, and it's my 7-month-old. And she was burnt. So I looked at him and I wrapped her up. I said, can I hold her? So a police officer is like, I'm sorry, man, because this is an investigation.
Yeah.
We can't allow you to hold her. And I looked at her like, please let me hold my baby. And he was like, I can't. And so I looked at him and said, if that was your child, and this was the last time you were going to hold her, what would you do? And he looked at me and he started crying. He said, here. So I held her. And then finally they took her. And so we were told that they took the kids to the hospital.
Yeah.
They were taking them. All I know, they walked me to a house. And I don't remember calling my mom. Everything just started going blank. Like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But all I know is that I was standing on a couch, sitting on a couch, waiting for somebody to take me to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I look out and I see my mom. So I run to her and she was like, this is all a dream. And I told her, I said, I think we're in a dream together. And so I get to the hospital, and when I get there, they tell me who's the parents of the children. So he was there, and I said, me, and it was already a lot of people there because the news got out real quick, and so people were like family members were there. And so when I get to the hospital, they said, I need one of y'all to come and identify the other child. And I looked at him like, what do you mean the other child? He said, we just lost another one. And so I was like, what? And they said, we just lost another one and we need to identify who she is. And so I couldn't go, and he went. And when he came back, my mom had bought all of them little gold earrings, loops, but different styles. And when he opened up his hand and he went like this, I knew who it was, and it was Mercedes, my 4-year-old.
The oldest.